Welcome back everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the new Toxoid species pack. We're going to be looking at a few different species builds that I think might be really worthwhile. So first up we're going to be looking at the Lithoids. So there's a few advantages Lithoids might be able to give us. It may not be a meta for multiplayer, could be, but we actually need to test it out. So there's a few placeholders here, so this isn't a final species build, but sorry, I do have a cold at the moment, so excuse my voice. So what we're looking at to take advantage of is with the Overtuned origin. So we take out the prosperous unification here, and there'll be the Overtuned origin will be in there, so you don't need to worry about that. So the problem that we've got with Lithoids is it does give us population growth speed minus 25%. However, we do get plus 50% habitability, leader lifespan plus 50 years. So where the plus 50 years bonus to Lithoids is going to come in, it's going to give us the ability to get rid of, or at least negate, a lot of the 10-year and 30-year negatives that we lose on the leaders for some of the benefits that we get from the toxoid traits that we're going to be able to pick. So with the toxoid traits, we've got the ability to have pre-planned growth, which gives us plus 30% population growth, but minus 30 years on our leader. So, and it also costs 2 points to pick that one. Then we have elevated synapse, which gives us 20% to all of our sciences, but also minus 30 years. It also costs 2 points. So it would cost 4 points for those two picks, but it would cost us minus 60 years in leader growth. That's where having Lithoids with the leader lifespan of plus 50 negates a lot of that. Not all of it, so it'll still be minus 10, but with that 30% population growth speed, that actually puts us at 5% pop growth speed for a Lithoid species. So we are slightly in front with the population growth speed. Now, the benefit with this type of build is with the plus 50% habitability, our 3 starting worlds, so our capital and our 2 guaranteed habitables, are going to be at 100%. So we're going to get extra happiness, extra resources, stability from having those planets at 100%. Now, on top of that, all the planets you find around in the galaxy, even a tomb world, is going to be at 50% habitability. Any other worlds such as desert or other wet worlds, they're going to be 20%, 40% habitability, but with plus 50, that makes them at 70% habitability and 90% habitability for this Lithoid species. So it makes at least 3/4 to 4/5 of the galaxy easily habitable with this species. Now, combined with the population growth for the Lithoids, which will be higher than the normal Lithoids because we've negated that population growth speed, giving you a large number of planets to colonize. So this is how you're going to play a wide empire. I am really congested at the moment, but I did want to get this out because I've been looking at this for a while now, and with the information that's come out in the recent dev diaries and dev streams, it's made it a bit more possible to actually look at this a bit more in depth. We're going to be playing it. This is going to be a wide empire, so you're going to be colonizing a number of planets to get that extra population growth speed, get those pops being created. You may have trouble early being able to afford this, and with a multiplayer build with a 30-year rush that tends to be the meta at the moment, you may not want to spread too wide too quickly because you're going to be needing to build a fleet and consolidate your empire at the start. However, there are some other benefits that we can get from this. Because with the Overtuned origin, we also get the ability to genetically modify our species, because we do start with gene tailoring. So we may actually want to, in this build, instead of going down the, let's say, natural engineers, these two are just placeholders where I'd put the elevated synapse and pre-planned growth. So they're both 2 points each, so they take the 2 points. Natural scientists. The reason I picked natural sociologists, the reason I picked that is because we do have the genetic engineering traits, and we probably want to get to genetic ascension as fast as we can, because we already start with a good bonus in that area. So let's use it, because with the Toxoids update, we can get access to exotic metabolism, which you can get once you've finished the genetic ascension tree. It's an advanced trait that you can only genetically modify into your species. And this gives us a further 25% population growth speed, leader lifespan plus 50 years. So bang, we get back all of our longer leader lifespan from a lithoid species that we should have, plus another 25% habitability. The habitability doesn't really affect us so much because we've already got high habitability, but it will mean those 90% and 70% worlds, the 90% are going to go up to 100, the 70% worlds will be at 95, and the 50% go up to 75. So your entire galaxy is now highly habitable to this species, and plus you probably would have researched some habitability techs already by this point, so you've probably got another 5 or 10% on top of that already. You're going to have highly productive worlds all over the galaxy for a very large empire with this species. Now, on top of that, with the ethics or civics, we've got I picked Masterful Crafters here because that seems to be one of the strongest civics that everyone likes to play. But there's a benefit here with the lithoids, because with the toxic species update, we can get access to mutagenic spars as another civic. Now, I'm assuming here we will be able to pick that civic for a lithoid species. I couldn't see anything which says that you cannot pick that. So, and I think it matches well with Masterful Crafters, because with Masterful Crafters we're getting the artificers, which give us the +1 consumer goods, the engineering tech, the trade value, and every 3 industrial districts we build, we get another building slot. And why that's good is because the mutagenic spars gives us +1% population growth per industrial district, -0.5% happiness per industrial district, -0.5 habitability per industrial district. The habitability -0.5 is not a problem for this species, because our starting worlds, the 3 of them, the habitability is already going to be at 130%, because you start off at 80 plus 50% for the lithoids, which puts us at 130. So you're going to be over cap. So you've got a fair bit of wriggle room there to have industrial districts before it's going to apply. Now, I'm making an assumption there that that's the way it works. I'm pretty sure that is the way it works. So your habitability will not go down for some time unless you're getting it's at about 60 industrial districts, which I don't think is really possible. It's not going to affect your starting worlds, and a lot of your other worlds are going to have high habitability anyway, so you can afford to put 10, 20 industrial districts down. With our pre-planned growth giving us +30%, then adding in some industrial districts, let's say you've got a alloy world and you've got 15 industrial districts on that planet, so that's giving you another 7.5% population growth on top of the 30% on that world. Now, the other benefit we can do here with a lithoid species is because we will have a lot of worlds around us which may be at 50% habitability, say some tomb worlds, and or even some 70% habitability worlds that you don't want to colonize because you've already got enough planets to manage. You might have your starting 3 or 4 planets that you really like and you want to build up good, but there might be another 2 or 3 other planets around you which you don't really want. But with mutagenic spars, you could colonize those other 3 planets, build industrial districts on those planets, get higher population growth on those planets, and just use those planets as a population growth centers, and just transferring the pops off those worlds to your main planets, so you can get your alloy world, consumer world, energy, science, and mineral worlds. You can have a more really specified, gaining as max efficiency as you can using your pops in that way. It will just cost you minerals, which will be to build those industrial districts, because with the Masterful Crafters you're going to get some extra districts to building slots to build on those planets. So if those planets do have strategic resources, you'll be able to access them as well, or be able to gain access to other resources that you may want to build on there. You may want to build a motes processing center or something like that, because you didn't have any motes in your empire and you need the motes to build your upgraded alloy facilities to level 1 and level 2. This can be a very powerful build, particularly when you then do exotic metabolism once you get to the end of the genetic ascension and get that +25% pop growth speed on top of this. So you're already getting +30%. Add in, let's say, 20 industrial districts to make it easy. That's another 10% pop growth, so at 40. Then add in another 25% pop growth speed from the exotic metabolism. So that's 65% pop growth speed. And you're going to be beelining down that to try and reach that as soon as you can. I think it is very powerful. I would probably, with this build, with the ethics, there's a few possible good combinations. I've picked Xenophobe, so you get the star-based influence cost down, because you're going to be expanding quicker than probably other empires, because you're going to want more planet. It gets that pop growth speed up another 10%. Instead of it being at 30, we're at 40 base speed population growth. So once you get that exotic metabolism, we're at 65. Industrial districts that you have on any planets are going to increase that further again. Then we've got a spiritualists, just to increase our unity production, and we get some priests and temples so that we can keep our unity up so that we can get to genetic ascension quicker. Authoritarian, monthly influence up, and worker pop resource. Now, you could swap this out and go for militarist so that you can get your ship fire rate up, which we could then stack with distinguished admiralty. There we go, another 10%. It's up to you which way you want to go. You can, I think a combination of these four is good. You can, you might do that. You might not go spiritualist. You might go authoritarian, militarist, and xenophobe. The only reason I really picked authoritarian was to get a bit more influence, a bit more resource output, so that we can help with the expansion, claiming as many systems and planets as we can to use for future expansion. The militarist to help to defend that, but you might want to go to spiritualist because you want the extra unity instead to get the priest, and maybe you want they have a higher chance of getting psionics and going down that path and getting really good leaders as well, and perhaps you want access to the shroud and that later, because psionics with their psychic abilities and the leaders and that is also very powerful at the moment. It's one of the meta builds people are running with at the moment. So I think that is a pretty strong species build. The other thing you can do, because we do start with genetic manipulation at the start, we can take out these, take out a couple of the, well, at least one of them at the start. We can take out one. So what we can do, we can take out 1 point or one trait at the start of the game with our genetic tailoring, because that gives us 1 point to genetically modify this species. Picking decadent with the minus 10% worker happiness, slave happiness, not really an issue. I won't have any slaves at the start. You can modify your species right at the start of the game and take that out, and you can set your species growth to only grow the new species, and you can modify the rest of your pops wherever it's convenient to do so. That's another powerful trait. You can genetically modify your pops straight away at the start of the game, and you will be able to add in some other traits as time goes by. You might want to add in toxoid traits that are coming, some of the 1.1s, which also gives you a lot of bonuses. Let's say that you've got exotic metabolism, and that's an advanced trait, so you can modify that in with your genetic engineering. Then you might want to add in another 1 point bonus from the toxoid traits, which that will give you, let's say you want to add in another 15% mineral production or energy production. That's 1 point instead of 2 points for the standard trait, but it does take 10 years off the leader lifespan. But with the exotic metabolism already in your species, that gives you plus 50 years. So you could add in, if you've got enough trait points, a couple of them, I would think. You get another, say, 15% energy, 15% minerals, or another, if you need unity growth, or you want to get consumer goods going a bit better, whatever you need at that particular point in your empire, you can add in a couple of more traits to really make your species very powerful. And it's only going to cost you, let's say you add in 2 more traits, because I think that's pretty reasonable at that stage of the game. You're probably going to have a few other techs which are giving you trait points. Once you've finished genetic ascension, you should have got, I think it's 6 points from memory. You get 3 and then 3. You're going to have a fair few points there to play with. We've got Lithoids, which adds the plus 50, so that gets us to only minus 10 years, and then the exotic metabolism puts up another 50. You could easily use 40 years of that, and you're still at a standard lifespan. And you probably would have used a few techs to boost your leader lifespans anyway by then. With your 6 points you get from your ascension perks, you could easily, I think, probably an advanced trait would probably cost 3, maybe 4 points. I think it's some of these, are they considered advanced? I'm not strong. It doesn't really say if that's advanced or not. Very strong there. Venerable. So that's 4 points. I'm not sure how much the advanced traits would cost. I'm not really sure. It's going to be either 3 or 4 points. So you've got 6 points there to play with. Plus you've already got your gene tailoring. That's 7. There's a few other techs there which are going to give you points as well. And the bottom line is you can make your species very, very powerful around that time that you get exotic metabolism. Adding in a couple more of those toxoid traits taking the leader, taking another 20-30 years off the leader lifespan is not going to bother you much at all, and it's going to make your species extremely powerful. You can change this around to whatever you particularly need at the start. This is just mainly placeholders for what I'm putting in, but this was just to focus on the society. So you get the extra research, plus 15% research speed to get down that genetic modification tree, to get to exotic metabolism, so you can get genetic ascension and all that done nice and quick. Change this to whatever would suit you. I think that's pretty powerful, or even authoritarian is pretty powerful, but getting the militarist does give you the plus 10% and gives you access to distinguished admiralty, another plus 10%. So that is pretty powerful. If you want to play an aggressive game and you're in a multiplayer game, you're probably going to need that. In single player, you can probably afford to drop that and go authoritarian. I think it's a pretty strong build. You could even an argument here, you can go fanatic xenophobe to get the minus 40% influence cost plus 20% pop growth, which will give you 50% because you get 30% straight off the bat, and 20 at 50. So you're starting at minus 25, so you'll be at plus 25% pop growth for lithoids straight away. That's pretty good. And when you get exotic metabolism, you'll be at plus 50%, including your benefits you get from mutagenic spars. So if you pick that Civic, which I probably would, it'd be interesting to try that out. I think that's about all I can do with lithoids at the moment. It's going to be interesting to actually get the hands on toxoids and just play around with it, but I think lithoids is going to be a particularly strong build because in multiplayer you're also going to have to defend the ground. So with lithoids you do start with plus 50% army health, which will give you a nice defensive bonus. Should you lose the space battle, you can build your fortresses and planetary shields and turn your planets into very hard planets to crack indeed. Okay, so I'll move on to another species. Okay, now I'm looking at a biological race, and we'll look at Overtuned first, what we could possibly do. So I'm looking at firstly aquatic, so that we can get the plus 20% habitability on an ocean world. So we're at 100% for our first 3 worlds. That will increase the benefits we get from Overtuned, because if we pick the augmented intelligence, it gives us the plus 10%, and that only costs 1 point. And then you combine that with intelligence, which costs 2 points, that gives us plus 20%. And we're using 3 points to get that, and it will cost us minus 10 years in leader lifespan. So you could go down that route to get plus 20% technology. So we could also pick the elevated synapses, which gives us plus 20% technology, but at the cost of minus 30 years for the leader lifespan. But you do get plus 2 to your level leader cap as well. So combine that with intelligence, and we've got plus 30% technology right from day 1 for the cost of 3 leader points, but at minus 30 years for a leader. You could offset that by using enduring, which gives us plus 20 years for leaders if you want to put that in your traits. And what you could also do, because you could put some negative traits in here, and you could at the start of the game genetically modify your species and take one of these traits out, saving yourself one of the negative bonuses there. And once you get another technology to add more genetic modifications, you could add another bonus back in. So you could leave enduring until you have a few trait points and modify it that way. So you don't have to take it right at the start if you need other bonuses, because plus 20 years to your leader at the start of the game, the first 20-30 years, it's not going to bother you too much. You probably will start losing leaders around that 30-year mark, I would imagine. So you probably want to get it done prior to then, if that's the path you want to take. You might just accept rolling for your leaders all the time and instead go for the bigger, earlier economy or the tech lead that you're going to get from this type of build. Because if you combine civics with mutagenic spars, you're going to be able to increase your population growth, because what we're going to be able to do, mutagenic spars is like I was saying with the toxoids, and it's a little bit more relevant, I guess, for this type of build, because you are going to have a lot of 0% habitability worlds or low habitability worlds in the red around you that you may not necessarily want to develop early in the game, but you might have 1 or 2 planets within your boundaries. If you've got your 3 or 4 starting worlds, which are good, you get a couple of red worlds, colonize them and keep them at 1 pop, and build some industrial districts with mutagenic spars, increase the population growth, and you're just using those planets as population growth centers to feed your other worlds and really get them up firing. So you can get the increased pop growth that way. by having multiple planets. That will be very powerful. Most people colonize their planets to get extra pop growth. Mutagenic spars just adds another way to do that. If you think that Civic adds enough benefit for that, and the habitability and happiness is not going to matter on those worlds. It will matter on your worlds where you've got your main producing alloy world. You might have some issues with the habitability going down a little bit and the happiness going down, which you can offset with a bit more amenities. You're going to be at 100% anyway using this build, so you do have a bit of wriggle room there to play with if you want to go that way, if you want to increase pop growth speed. You may want to elect for something else to be strong in this build. A lot of people tend to use these days meritocracy to get that specialist pop resource output up 10% from your core 3 or 4 planets, which will help you in that first 20 to 30 year period that you're really trying to get your economy going to either hold off the AI, or if you're playing in a competitive multiplayer game. So this could also be used for Knights of the Toxic God. So that is a more role-playing origin, but I think it can also be very, very powerful in a multiplayer context, because you are getting a lot of technology and unity from your knights and squires, and I think it was Lord Commanders. So you're not going to have to put too much effort into technology or unity in your build. Instead of having intelligent, probably still want to have aquatic, because you will have a nice planet and some nice habitable worlds around you, because you do also start with that habitat. So you effectively have 2 worlds with population growth at the start, although -3 pops on your starting world, but you will be growing pops quicker to offset that than a lot of other empires, other than probably void dwellers, if there are any. You probably want to, because of the costs with the knights, that they cost alloys to keep, and your economy is in a rather poor state at the start of the game, so you might want to consider putting in some bonuses here, like you might want to consider industrious, ingenious for the extra minerals and energy. So mineral production you might want to consider as a priority, because you're going to be needing the extra alloys for your knights, which will get more and more efficient over time as you do more and more quests and go down the event chains with this origin. Your knights become highly productive in research and unity. So you're going to need lots of alloys to maintain your knight jobs. Plus, you start with habitat technology that you can research early. So it does, I think, cost 10,000 points in a normal game, 10,000 research points. So, but still gettable in a reasonable time frame, particularly if you're going research focus with your knights early. Getting enough research buildings, which is a pretty good way to start. You're going to want the alloys so that you can build more habitats as well, should you not have many starting planets in your area. And because you are a ocean world start with the aquatic trait, habitats may be something which is very useful to you, so you can expand quickly. So you're going to need alloys for the knights and also the habitats, plus to be able to build your military. So doing some resource traits, and perhaps even we can have a look at the civics here. You might want to consider such like mining guilds to get the extra mining as well, and you might want to consider if there's any others here which will suit you for your increase your marine economy, because I don't think you really want to go overboard with the tech. You could stick with intelligence and augmented intelligence and to really get your technology growth high, but then you're not going to have the economy to utilize that technology to build a military to defend yourself or go on the offensive. You can consider seriously using some of these resource civics or traits to use. You could, if you wanted to, you could change this to an alpine world or a cold world to have a better chance of getting higher mineral production so that you can feed your alloy economy, but that's at the cost of the habitability on your first 3 worlds, which will be lower happiness and lower resource output again. So that will make your starting position worse. At least the ocean start with aquatic will give you a little bit of an economic boost at the start to help you a little bit. So there are a few of the empire builds that I would probably play around with at the start. There's going to be so many different combinations we can use. This is by no means a thorough investigation. This is just a quick look through a few things that I've found that I thought I could share with what we've got access to so far. There's a lot of combinations we're going to be able to build, and it's going to be very interesting to see what people come up with really low leader lifespans and high population growth at the start and resource growth, because they're using all these overtuned civics and traits and stuff at the start and genetically modifying your species. For me, I think Overtuned is going to be a powerful origin to go down that genetic path. It does seem like that's going to be really, really good. And Knights of the Toxic Gods probably going to be more RP playing, but I can see potential there for a strong build. But early on, you are going to be quite weak with that resource production, so that's where you are going to be at a disadvantage. It may really slow you down with expanding your planets, particularly you've got a bunch of tile blockers there which you can't remove, and it's linked to the event chains, and the event chains do take considerable amount of time. I think to finish them takes about 150 years all up, something like that, or some ridiculous amount of time. But the benefits you do get from those events are very, very good from what I've seen. It's worth to play both play styles for sure. It's going to be very, very interesting. It'll be good to see what you guys all come up with. So if you like my videos, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel. I will be doing a lot more videos. I'll be doing some live playthroughs once Toxoid is released, to try and work out what the best combinations are, and just playing around with the empires and the builds. So hit that like button. See you next time.